What is good, chat, man? Today we have a W video. Today we are going to be reacting to something a little different on the channel. I'm trying to get into different content that I actually want to make. Um, so this video that we have today is called "Did the Nation of Islam Kill Malcolm X?" Now, this is a debated topic for the since 1965, since Michael Jackson. I just did a Michael Jackson video the other day. That's why, like, yeah, literally earlier today. But I said Michael Jackson. This has been a debate since Malcolm X has been killed in 1965. So without further ado, man, 15-minute video, not too long. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and let's get straight into the video, man.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the Islamic History Podcast YouTube channel. Last week, I released a video discussing how black Muslims feel about Elijah Muhammad.
I might react to that too, chat. So y'all might see a video from me coming for that too. Y'all might see a video of me reacting to that too.
In that video, I said I didn't believe Elijah Muhammad nor the Nation of Islam killed Malcolm X. I do not believe that the Nation of Islam as an organization nor Elijah Muhammad as an individual were either directly or indirectly involved with Malcolm X's death.
So if you ask that question, then you have to ask. I would think another question would be: so did they firebomb his house? Were they sending him death threats? That's another question that could be asked. I'm not saying they did that. I'm not saying that they didn't do it. I'm just saying that should be another question.
Some people took exception to that, and I had to go back and revisit exactly what I meant when I said that. And I realized that I was both right and wrong about that statement. So in this video,
yeah, that statement is both right and wrong. It is. But I want to see.
I'm going to explain just how involved the Nation of Islam was with Malcolm X's murder. Let's begin with a sequence of the events that led to Malcolm X's death. Malcolm X left prison and joined the Nation of Islam in August 1952. Over the next decade, he grew very popular both within the Nation of Islam and in the public eye.
You find the Negro lying and cheating, he doesn't know the truth. He's usually imitating the white man. Negroes get drunk because they see white people get drunk. They smoke cigarettes because they see white people smoke cigarettes. They commit fornication and adultery because when they turn on the television, all they see is a white man committing fornication and adultery.
The Nation of Islam, or the NOI, grew rapidly during this time, mostly due to the efforts of Malcolm X. Now, in the early 1960s, Malcolm began to notice two things occurring or happening within the Nation of Islam. I would say that it was in 1962 when I began to notice that less and less about me appeared in our nation's Muhammad Speaks. I learned that Mr. Muhammad's son, Herbert, now the paper's publisher, had instructed that as little as possible be printed about me. In fact, there was more in the Muslim paper about integrationist Negro leaders than there was about me. I could read more about myself in the European, Asian, and African press. First, he noticed that some people within the NOI were starting to get jealous of him. And this isn't a surprise because Malcolm X was very popular. He was very intelligent and he was an absolutely magnificent speaker. But most importantly, Malcolm X was incorruptible, and there was a lot of corruption taking place in the Nation of Islam at that time. The second thing that Malcolm X noticed was that there were many rumors about Elijah Muhammad's personal life. As far back as 1955, I had heard hints. But believe me when I tell you this, for me to even consider believing anything as insane sounding as any slightest implication of any immoral behavior of Mr. Muhammad, why, the very idea made me shake with fear. And so my mind simply refused to accept anything so.
And this is why Islam is so beautiful, because it says that men aren't perfect. We're not. See, they held Elijah Muhammad to such a high standard, and he's just a man. You know what I'm saying? He's a man who's imperfect, who has shortcomings, who sins. So Elijah Muhammad, he you know what I'm saying, he sinned. He didn't do. Come on, bro, he sinned. And he's a guy, he's a person. So, you know, anybody who's following real Islam, they would know this, and they would, they wouldn't held a man to this high standard that, that the Nation of Islam is holding Elijah Muhammad to.
Grotesque as adultery mentioned in the same breath with Mr. Muhammad's name. At first, Malcolm X tried to ignore these rumors, but by 1963, he just couldn't ignore them any longer. He first met with one of Elijah Muhammad's sons named Wallace Muhammad, whom we now know as Imam W.D. Muhammad or Imam Warithuddin Muhammad, and he also met with Louis X. We now know Louis X as Minister Louis Farrakhan. Well, Wallace Muhammad tried to counsel Malcolm X using scripture, but Louis X, that is Farrakhan, got very angry with Malcolm X for bringing up this topic.
Telling Mike Wallace, and listen to the words now, Elijah Muhammad fathered children from his teenage secretaries. So Malcolm raised it to a moral issue. Listen to me carefully. Putting himself in the righteous position, putting his teacher in an immoral position.
Bro, it is an immoral position. It is. And it's an immoral position because first, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lets us have up to 4 wives, right? We're allowed to have up to 4 wives with certain conditions, right? Was Mr. Muhammad married to any of these women? Was he married to any of these women? Okay. I believe not. So he sinned. That was a sin. Then let's not forget that he communicated these women in front of everybody. In front of everyone. And made it seem like they did something wrong when he was the one who fathered them. He fathered them. He's the one who committed the act to get them pregnant. So why are they being discommunicated? Why are they getting discommunicated? I don't get that. So yeah, it is immoral. It definitely is immoral.
But then he's going to the white man.
Also met with some of the women who had made allegations against Elijah Muhammad. Finally, in April 1963, Malcolm flew to Arizona to meet with Elijah Muhammad directly and discuss these rumors. After the meeting, Malcolm seemed to accept Elijah Muhammad's explanation, but it also seemed that his faith was shaken. But around 1963, if anyone had noticed...
No, it doesn't make sense, bro. It didn't make sense at all. Because in the movie, and this is just a movie, but even in the movie, this is like what? When Betty Shabazz, his wife, Malcolm X's wife, when she comes to him and she says something, he's like, David, he responded with, he's like, David had, he said David had wives, Moses had wives, this had wives, and it's like, bro, you're comparing Elijah Muhammad to Musa, Dawood, the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You're comparing. Come on, bro. And it's like, again, we can have 4 wives, but I may be ignorant. But was Mr. Muhammad married to these women? Was he married to them? Was there a marriage? And if they were, if he was publicly married to him, history wouldn't have gone like this. History would have easily just called Malcolm X a liar. Boom, they would have just showed everything. He was married to him. And that would have been it. He wasn't married to them. Sometimes we have to use common sense.
I spoke less and less of religion. I taught social doctrine to Muslims and current events and politics.
See, and I've never heard Malcolm say this. No, actually, I think this is in the book. Yeah, see, it says in the autobiography of Malcolm X. I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, but, so I had to read this part. But, I just had a light bulb moment that I didn't think about when I was reading the book. He says, but around 1963, if anyone had noticed, I spoke less and less about religion. And I always had that thought ever since I started um, researching Malcolm X. Ever since I started listening to all of his speeches, all of his lectures, because I listen to Farrakhan too. I listen to Farrakhan, you know, Farrakhan's lectures and stuff like that. And Farrakhan usually speaks about religion. And I always thought in my head, I wish Malcolm X would have had more lectures about religion. But he definitely does. I definitely noticed that he always has, like he said, social doctrine, current events, and politics. That's what he like. That's what his speeches are known for. And I really do wish that after he came from Mecca, especially. Well, he probably didn't, because before him going to Mecca, he was teaching Nation of Islam doctrine, which they involve the Bible, they involve the Quran. They speak from all different angles. But I wish he had more time past 1965 to actually study Islam, and you know what I'm saying, like, and really be able to speak the way he spoke, but about the message of Islam. That would have been a beautiful thing to see, bro. That would have been so beautiful.
I stayed wholly off the subject of morality, and the reason for this was that my faith had been shaken in a way I can never fully describe.
And see,
For
this is why you don't put a man, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop pausing, but this is why you don't put a man above. This is why you don't put your faith in a man, because when a man proves you, when a man messes up, this is what's gonna happen to you. Your faith is gonna be shaken. That's why cults don't last. You know what I'm saying, this is why Allah, this is why Allah is the only person that well, not person, the only thing that we follow.
I had discovered Muslims had been betrayed by Elijah Muhammad himself. But what Malcolm X did not know was that Elijah Muhammad was now scared of him. And from their own mouths, I heard that Elijah Muhammad had told them I was the best, the greatest minister he ever had, but that someday I would leave him, turn against him. So I was dangerous. I learned from these former secretaries of Mr. Muhammad that while he was praising me to my face, he was tearing me apart behind my back. Malcolm and Elijah Muhammad met.
What prophet of God is gonna do that? What messenger of God is gonna do that? You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, I have great respect for Elijah Muhammad. Just simply based off of his how he reformed black people, black men specifically, out of jail. How he single handedly set up an organization that produced so many great black leaders. So I respect the Nation of Islam and I respect Elijah Muhammad. But when it comes to what's true and what's true and what's wrong, when it comes to what's right, what's good and bad, you know what I'm saying? He was wrong. You're not the messenger of God. Allah did not come in the flesh. And this isn't true Islam. This isn't true Islam.
In April 1963, and a few months later, in November 1963, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And a week after that, Malcolm X made his infamous "chickens come home to roost" comment. Well, as we know, Elijah Muhammad punished Malcolm X for this comment by silencing him or suspending him for 90 days. But Malcolm X soon came to realize that his comments were just.
And another thing too that I want to say is that I hope that, because the minister Louis Farrakhan is getting very old now. I believe he's in his 90s. I really pray that he accepts. I don't want to say, because I don't know what's in someone's heart and I don't know what he's done, but I hope that he perpetrates. Is that a word? Perpetrate? Or I hope that he lets his followers know that. I hope that he lets his followers know the real Islam. I hope that he can somehow, before he dies, speak the message of the real Islam. And I want to see the Nation of Islam. My dog is tweaking, chat. I want to see the Nation of Islam drop this whole Allah came in the flesh, because we can keep our culture. That's not the problem. And I seen certain people from the Nation of Islam try to say that, like, oh, Sunni Muslims don't accept us because it's a culture difference, and it's like, you can keep your culture without doing haram, and it's like, when it comes to it's really a theology problem. Like, when it comes to Allah coming in the flesh, it's like, bro, haram. That's like, you're basically a Christian in my eyes. When it comes to Elijah Muhammad being a messenger, a prophet, whatever they want to say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the last prophet. He is the seal of prophets. Where did you get that this man is a prophet, Elijah Muhammad? Where are we getting this from? Because he said it?
Just an excuse to end his career. Any Muslim would have known that my chickens coming home to roost statement had been only an excuse to put into action a plan for getting me out. As step one had already been taken, the Muslims were given the impression that I had rebelled against Mr. Muhammad. I could now anticipate step two. I would remain suspended, and later I would be isolated indefinitely. Step 3 would be either to provoke some Muslim ignorant of the truth to take it upon himself to kill me as a religious duty, or to isolate me so that I would gradually disappear from the public scene. In March 1964, Malcolm X broke from the Nation of Islam and started 2 organizations of his own. The following month, in April 1964, Malcolm X made his famous Hajj pilgrimage to Mecca, and he confirmed that he was now a true Muslim. I told him that the Islam I believed in now was the Islam which was taught in Mecca, that there was no God but Allah, and that Muhammad ibn Abdullah, who lived in the holy city of Mecca 1400 years ago, was the last messenger of Allah. In July 1964, Elijah Muhammad was hit with several paternity suits, and his infidelity became public knowledge. Well, throughout the rest of 1964, the Nation of Islam as an organization was trying to evict Malcolm X and his family from their home in Queens, which was owned by the Nation of Islam. Meanwhile, Malcolm X spent much of the years traveling overseas, meeting with foreign dignitaries, and basically becoming an international statesman. On February 14th, 1965, Malcolm's home was firebombed while his family, his wife and children, were inside. Afterwards, Malcolm X blamed the Nation of Islam, or perhaps members of the Nation of Islam, for this attack.
I wanted you to know that my house was bombed. It was bombed by the black Muslim movement upon the orders of Elijah Muhammad.
And then on February 27th, 1965, Malcolm X was assassinated in Harlem, New York.
RP my guy, man. RP my guy. RP my guy, bro. RP my guy. And before we get into it, I'm going to say this. It was the Nation of Islam who carried it out, but it was the CIA who completely, set the orders, who definitely knew that he was going to die, who definitely... It was the CIA, bro. It was the CIA. I wouldn't even blame the Nation of Islam, even though I do believe that black people carried it out. It was definitely the Nation of Islam. And there's even someone who's close to Malcolm X. I forgot who it was, but they said that Malcolm knew that the CIA was watching him. Of course he knew. They were following him in Egypt. They were following him while he was abroad. So Malcolm knew that the CIA was following him. And even in the movie we seen at the end, he knew he was going to die.
I strongly advise you to watch the documentary Who Killed Malcolm X on Netflix. This documentary discusses the conspiracies surrounding the truth of Malcolm X's murder. Now, 3 men were arrested and convicted of killing Malcolm X. Thomas Hagen, also known as Talmadge Hayer, Thomas Johnson, and Norman Butler. Thomas Hagen was the only one who admitted to taking part in the murder. The other 2 men denied any responsibility in Malcolm X's murder, but they were still convicted, and they wound up spending 2 decades in prison. Amazingly, while in prison, all 3 of these men accepted true Islam. Thomas Johnson changed his name to Khalil Islam. Norman Butler changed his name to Muhammad Abdul Aziz, and Thomas Hagen, the one who actually admitted to the killing, repudiated the Nation of Islam and changed his name to Mujahid Abdul Halim. While he was in prison, Mujahid Abdul Halim, the man who admitted to taking part in Malcolm X's murder, he wrote an affidavit saying that the other two men were innocent and naming 3 other men as his co-conspirators. The documentary I mentioned earlier, Who Killed Malcolm X, investigated these claims, and ultimately this led to the state of New York exonerating Khalil Islam and Muhammad Abdul Aziz in November 2021. The following year, in 2022, the city of New York and the state of New York awarded Muhammad Abdul Aziz and Khalil Islam $36 million for wrongful incarceration. There's lots of evidence implicating a man named William Bradley was the actual main shooter, the one who held the shotgun that actually killed Malcolm X. But this man was never arrested nor convicted of this crime. It goes without saying that all of these men that I've mentioned so far were members of the Nation of Islam at the time of Malcolm's death. The big question is, did Elijah Muhammad order Malcolm X's death? Now we have to understand that at this time, the relationship between Malcolm X and
Imam W.D. Muhammad, he said that, and I don't know, I mean, if I'm thinking the best of him, then, I would take this as the truth, but he said that he heard his father say, which his father is Elijah Muhammad, he heard his father say that, he put his head down or something like this, and he said that, I wish they wouldn't have killed the boy. He said that he heard Elijah Muhammad say that out his own mouth. I wish they hadn't killed the boy. So, take that with whatever you want to take that with.
And the Nation of Islam was completely hostile. Malcolm X was openly discussing Elijah Muhammad's infidelity and the corruption within the Nation of Islam.
Why are they threatening?
But Wallace D. Muhammad also said that Elijah Muhammad, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he said something along the lines of, when Malcolm X was getting all the death threats and when, it was at the height of his boiling point, that Elijah Muhammad would have been not glad that he got killed, but pretty much it would have benefited him, basically, because Malcolm was a problem for him.
In your life?
Well, primarily because they're afraid that I will tell the real reason that I'm out of the black Muslim movement, which I never told. I kept to myself. But the real reason is that Elijah Muhammad, the head of the movement, is the father of 8 children by 6 different teenage girls.
6. So even if you were married to them, that's haram. You're not married to them, that's haram. Bro, come on, bro. Either way how you look at this, this is haram.
The Nation of Islam had every reason to hate and fear Malcolm X. Malcolm X was becoming an international statesman. Malcolm was promoting Islam as the solution to America's race problem. Malcolm X was more popular than Elijah Muhammad back then, and he's still more popular even today. With all that being said, there's still no evidence that Elijah Muhammad ordered Malcolm X's killing.
That my father feared Malcolm after he broke with the Nation of Islam. He feared the damage that Malcolm could do to his work, to his many years of work. And I know that he would be relieved to hear that Malcolm was dead.
That's the clip I was talking about.
I know that. But to say he is involved, ordered it, I can't say that.
It is obvious that many high-ranking officials within the Nation of Islam wanted Malcolm X dead.
And these reports that Malcolm X has been marked for death, you say, are spread by Malcolm X himself?
That is his source of propaganda to stay in the press. He have no other means of reaching the press. He doesn't have a program. He's trying to reduplicate something that has been tried over the years by other so-called Negro leaders, And since it's not newsworthy, then the only thing that brings the press running is the fact that he is giving out this hearsay information that he's branded for death.
And they created an environment where it was inevitable that one of the members would try to kill Malcolm X.
And frankly, it ain't none of your business. What have you got to say about it? Did you teach Malcolm? Did you make Malcolm? Did you clean up Malcolm? Did you put Malcolm out before the world? Was Malcolm your traitor or was he ours? And if we dealt with him like a nation deals with a traitor, what the hell business is it of yours?
So, bro, I love Farrakhan. I love Farrakhan, bro. Like, he says, like, a lot of things that, you know, hit the spirit that I agree with, that, you know, I love Farrakhan. But, bro, when I hear that, bro, it just makes my skin crawl, bro. Like, what the like, are we serious? Bro, that shit, like, it makes my blood boil to this day.
With
bro.
this information in mind, I have to partially retract my previous statement. I still believe that Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam were not directly responsible for Malcolm X's death. That is, Elijah Muhammad did not sign the death warrant. He did not put a hit out on Malcolm X. However, I do believe that they were indirectly responsible because they made people hate Malcolm X enough to want to kill him. And we also can't forget...
Oh, no. Hold up. We're losing the plot here.
The NYPD and the FBI. Both of these...
The CIA, my nigga. I'm sorry. Stuck for law. But the CIA used the Nation of Islam to do this. They use... okay, even if you don't want to say the Nation of Islam, they use black people to do it. The CIA used black people to do it. The Nation of Islam did create... They wanted Malcolm dead. Which he's right about that. They did create an atmosphere to... But they didn't create an atmosphere to have him hated. The CIA hated him. Either way, he was going to die. Let's say if Malcolm... Let's say when Malcolm left the Nation of Islam, let's say he didn't say nothing about Elijah Muhammad. Let's say he just stopped saying stuff about Elijah Muhammad, and let's say he continued with that same message that what he was doing: Islam, Pan-Africanism, African unity, Muslim Mosque Incorporated. Like, let's say he continued everything that he was gonna do, and let's say he had got as much notoriety. Let's say if he would have got as much popularity that he got. Do you think the CIA still would have let him die? I mean, let him live? Do you think the CIA would have let him live? The CIA would have, without a doubt, still killed him. But the Nation of Islam, I think they used the Nation of Islam as a cover-up. Like, oh, it was a black Muslim beef. When the whole time they used the Nation of Islam to do it. That's what I think.
These law enforcement organizations knew that members of the Nation of Islam wanted to kill Malcolm X, and they did nothing about it. As sad as this story is, I find it amazing that so many of these men became true Muslims later in life. Unfortunately, Thomas Johnson, aka Khalil Islam, who was wrongfully convicted of killing Malcolm X, he died in 2009 before the state of New York exonerated him.
Damn.
But even the man who is widely suspected of holding the shotgun that actually killed Malcolm X, William Bradley, he became a true Muslim and changed his name to Al-Mustafa Shabazz. William Bradley Al-Mustafa Shabazz died.
Alhamdulillah. But, bro, like...
in 2019. This all goes to show that true guidance comes from Allah, and we never know who He will guide to the truth. Now, regarding Talmage Hayer, or Thomas Hagen, or his Muslim name Mujahid Abdul Halim, he is the only man to admit to killing Malcolm X. He is Muslim now, and upon becoming Muslim, we know that his previous sins were forgiven. Without him, without his affidavit, we wouldn't know as much as we know
That's
about
true.
Malcolm X's murder.
That's true.
So as much as we love Malcolm X, we have to be willing to forgive his killer, who is now our brother in Islam, Mujahid Abdul Halim. We ask Allah to forgive Malcolm X, Imam W.D. Muhammad, Mujahid Abdul Halim, Khalil Islam, Muhammad Abdul Aziz, and Al-Mustafa Shabazz. Whether they were guilty or not, may Allah forgive them and have mercy on them. Now, YouTube thinks you'd be interested.
Hey man, W video. I'm gonna subscribe to bro. I'm gonna like the video. Yeah, W video. Oh, that's another thing. Malcolm X got poisoned in Egypt by the CIA. That's something else a lot of people don't know. Literally. Anyways, I ain't gonna get into that, but alright y'all, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and until next time, peace.